Hey Snuck, this is going to be a 5 racks opener TVZ, and the 5 racks opener is kind of you're kind of hoping that he underreacts, right? Because I mean, as a Zerg, to beat a 5 racks opener, you just need to remember to occasionally sneak out an extra drone, 1 per 17 seconds, and spend the rest of your larva on lings and get ling speed, and you just kind of win, like, easily. One really important factor in dealing with the 5 racks opener is either getting spines and queens or having a third hatchery to get larvae from and making sure not to miss injects, that kind of things. But I mean, the reason that this type of build, when it works, the reason that it works is because either the Zerg overreacts early and then never remembers to continue his drone production, giving him a smaller economy than you for the rest of his life, or underreacts and gets no army and just loses to a big smattering of Marines. So you're going to walk across the field with 1 billion Marines. And right now, if these Marines had just been spotted when they arrived at his base, he's got zero larvae available and no lings and no spines, and he would just be dead. But unfortunately, he had the watchtower, and you showed him your whole pack of Marines at the watchtower, so he gets to see you coming, and he's going to try to respond by throwing down another spine, getting his queens in position, throwing down a third spine, massing as many lings as he can. So here you come, and the lings a couple at a time, drones being pulled, more lings kind of thing, and he's able to mark them. So it was, I mean, I feel it's tempting to say bad luck, but really, he had the watchtower, and he's always going to have that watchtower. So clear the watchtower with 3 Marines before you push with the whole guy. Or on maps like this, you can actually go around, I think. I think you can go up around here or over here or something. I don't know, maybe you can't. But yeah, the element of surprise is important when you're attacking with naked Marines, because like we've said a bunch of times, naked Marines just get crushed by speedlings on creep. And queens, which is silly because queens are like practically free. They don't use larvae and they only use minerals, and you need a bunch of minerals in the early game anyway. And any extra queens you make, as long as it's fewer than 5, will end up being required for injects later on anyway. So there's no downside. So it's kind of scary to be doing a build that is really dependent upon him not killing you with queens. It was really the spines that did it, though. I mean, if you'd arrived and he had no spines and no spines building, and he'd been fighting you with queens and drones and lings, you can just back up, stutter step backwards, and kill a lot of that stuff, and just keep reinforcing Marines and Marines and Marines to down here, and just keep poking up and coming down, poking up and coming down. But with those spines building, you were trying to be aggressive enough to kill the spines before they finished, and it didn't work out. So you've had a much smaller economy than him for a long time, because after that poke, he felt really safe. He felt safe enough to almost fully saturate his two bases, and now he's just going to make a bunch of them. And this is what I found a lot when I used to do Uber ups, is that as a Zerg player, if you see a Terran who is not going to get a medevac or a Banshee or a tank anytime soon, Baneling busts will kill him. You know, there's no way to use only minerals and defend against a good Baneling bust. So that's why it's really important when you're doing Marine openings like this, you have to get a double or triple wall in with bunkers scattered all over the place, empty bunkers. And then when he does a Baneling bust, it's nice if you can see it coming at the watchtower, and then you should be able to be Baneling proof from there. But yeah, it's a very common response to seeing a whole bunch of Marines early on to Baneling bust. And now you're going for this third. I don't know, this build that you opened with, the heavy Marine thing, I think it plays really well into a follow-up attack. I think being so passive after opening so aggressively, it's kind of, with the late command center from you, you're already behind on economy. So if you try to catch up economically from here, you're gonna run into the trouble that he just has a huge economy compared to you. You're never gonna catch up. So you're rallying your Marines over here, but he's got a bunch of speedlings and a bunch of treads. and then you throw it on your CC, and it's not even done until 10 minutes. And you did reasonably well on workers up until this point. You've lost 0, and yet you have 35 at 10 minutes. So you only missed 3 workers. That's good. And this is the same as the last 2 games I saw. You went double tech lab. I don't know why you keep going double tech lab. Marauders are so utterly useless in TVZ until you have medevacs that there's no real need for the second tech lab. The only time you need Marauders is if you're also getting Hellions. And you shouldn't be getting Hellions, honestly. They're hard to use properly. And so you really just want as many Marines as you can get, with maybe a tiny number of Marauders occasionally coming out. And that means having only 1 tech lab. Pretty important. Because, I mean, go into the unit tester and give yourself and the Zerg an equal army size. Make the Zerg's Roachling and yours pure Marauder. And as long as there's a reasonable mixture of Roaches and Lings, the Marauders are going to lose hardcore. And then trade out the Marauders for pure Marine, and the Marines are going to win, like, by a mile, as long as they have combat shields. And then mix the Marines and Marauders together, and you'll notice the more Marauders you add, the worse the fight goes for the Terran. Marauders are just dollar for dollar, they're just bad compared to Marines. And when we use Marauders in our TVP push, I'm always saying the Marauders are your support unit. They're there for concussive shells. They're not a DPS unit, even though they do, theoretically, Marauders do awesome against Infestors, Ultralisks, and Roaches. In reality, Lings are so fast that an A-moved Marauder is going to always be shooting at Lings. And they just do no damage against Lings. Look, they do 20 against armor and only 10 against Lings. And you can't reasonably be expected to focus fire your Marauders on Roaches when there's Lings hitting them, because the Roaches might just be too far away for the Marauders to get to. And you've got other things on your mind, like not dying to Banelings, moving your Marines away from Banelings. So in general, Marauders will never be focus fired onto stuff. Not never, but very rarely. And therefore, by default, they do half the DPS that you expect from them, and therefore they're crap. So they're good at soaking up damage. They're great. If you can do a drop behind like right here and put a Marauder here and a Marauder here and a Marauder here, and then a bunch of Marines back here, then those Marauders are going to do much better at tanking with medevacs floating overhead than Marines would do in that same spot. But it's very situational, and it's not really worth making Marauders for. Just pure Marine is the way to go in TVZ. And if you're going pure Marine, you don't want tech labs. So that was a big, long way of saying don't make 2 tech labs. Make 1 tech lab, and then get stim and combat shields, and then swap it onto your factory. Because you don't want any tech lab Drax until Ultras, which aren't going to come out until 18 minutes or something. So anyway, you've been trying to catch up on economy this whole time, and you're staying reasonably close to him on economy, but only because, again, he's opting not to get an economy. It looks like you've done well in your defense. You've traded relatively evenly. So this game is looking... I mean, it's looking okay, except that you have 4 tanks queued up and no medevacs on the way and no upgrades going and a ton of gas. That's a little crazy. And you've made your 3rd command center, but you can't seem to get it up because you can't seem to get it up. Anyway, your army's bigger than him. You should be aggressively able to take map control by now. You should be able to get your tanks down to the watchtower and be trying to force him to attack into you off of creep over and over and good things. So this is going well. Your 5 racks opening, even though it got cleaned up immediately, it forced him to not really make a lot of economy and to delay his tech and to really focus on these crappy low tier units until almost 16 or 17 minutes when he finally got infestors. So that was all good. But from here you've been way too passive. You haven't even been out on the map since the very first push. And that's bad. Also this, I've talked a lot about this to Nick in the distant past. Drops. The point of drops, right, is to spread the Zerg apart.
Mineral field depleted.
You want a big fight to happen at the same time as you do a drop, like what's happening right now. You did this drop, and his whole army is down here, so he can't respond to the drop the way he wants to, and that's awesome. But just dewdrops while you fight, I guess is kind of the point. And I mean, I don't know, it turned out just like, luckily he attacked into you as your drop right there, so that's great. I won't say anything more about that. But if you'd just done 2 drops while he's sitting back defensively and you're not even taking the watchtowers and you don't know where his army is, that would be really bad. There's no excuse to let that die, by the way. You still have a huge army, and there were SCVs all around. You could have repaired it. And yeah, the Zerg's always going to try to kill a PF because PFs can't be lifted, they can't run away. And you still need to make them because they're freaking awesome. But you should just always expect him to come try to kill it. I'm surprised he's not just fungling your tons of energy. Anyway, that dropped it a ton of damage. And he did a bunch of damage to you, and you came out way ahead. You came out $2,000 ahead. And anytime a Zerg kills a planetary fortress, your gut reaction is to say, I'm not mining at my main anymore, and he just killed my PF. I'm doomed. I need to spend all of my effort trying to re-secure that third. But that's totally the wrong reaction. Because, remember, SCVs that mine from minerals bring in 40 minerals per minute. But if you don't have any minutes left in the game, they aren't helping you. So by losing a mining base, if he trades his whole army and all of his fungal energy for your PF, and you have a $7,000 army against his $1,800 army, go kill him. Anytime you lose a PF, kill the Zerg. That's like you gotta get used to that, because killing a PF costs so much money. And it puts him ahead on economy, but economy matters 3 minutes down the road. It does not matter right now. So if you immediately attacked him after losing that PF, he's got no way to resist you and survive the attack. So, yeah. I assume you're not going to, but you should immediately unsiege all these tanks, get a bunch of these idle SCVs that can't mine anywhere anyway, put them on auto repair, follow your tanks across, and go dun 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 dun, push right into his natural and try to kill his natural. Instead, you're going to do some kind of cute little drop harass with a tank down below. This is good stuff to be doing generally, but it's more of a delaying tactic than a damage-doing tactic. Like, this is a way to keep the Zerg in his base when he has a bigger army than you and there's no other way that you could survive. It's a way to gain map control without having a superior army. And you had a superior army. You had a vastly superior army, so never do pinning tactics when you have a better army. If you have a bigger army, kill him and win. When he has a bigger army than you, pinning tactics are awesome. So you did relocate your tanks. It just took a little while, and by then he had ultras. So you guys are even on army. He knocks down your PF. He's way behind on army. And now it's 21 minutes. And when does he finish these ultras? He didn't even have an ultraless cavern yet. So at 21 minutes is when you should have attacked him. It's going to be, let's see, right? Yeah, pretty soon. Bloop. Okay, so at 25 minutes is when he finally catches up on army. So he's been behind until now, but right when those ultras pop, he's caught up. He's not ahead. He's just caught up. He's actually more than $1,000 behind you. But Marine tank without +3 attack against ultras is really bad. Ultras are kind of immune to Marines. And that's when you gotta start making Marauders finally, is when Ultras come out. But Marauders are crap until Ultras come out, and if that happens at 25 minutes, the game should be over by then anyway. So you dicked around from 21 minutes to 25 minutes, and the game should have been yours in this little time period. And now that he has the Ultras out, this is the hard part. Tier 3 Zerg kind of beats everything. And so it's just like TVP. You have to have a lead before the tier 3 is out, because if you guys are on even footing, or like in this case you're behind, it's not going to go well once it comes out with tier 3, because he ends up with the same sized army as you in unit space, but it's much stronger than yours because yours is made of like tier 1 units without 3/3 upgrades, and yeah. And that's the end. La 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 la. Now he's got a bajillion ultras and stuff. Cracklings. Gonna make some banelings and go kill you. So when he knocked down your third, he got a giant economic lead, and you're doomed from there if you keep trying to compete on economy. This is kind of the second time in the same game where you got way behind on economy and you were like, alright, I should try to catch up on economy. And while you should constantly make SCVs and constantly try to get them to places where they can mine all game long, it shouldn't. You gotta pick your primary focus, and at different times there's different things you should be focusing on. And right now, what you should be focusing on is attacking, killing him, winning. So yeah. Yes, transfer these guys down. Yes, float your CC down. Yes, take the guys that are here and clear out the area so that your CC can get down there. But then immediately sprint to his base and kill him. You know, that should take you like 20 game seconds to walk over here, move these 4 roaches out of the way, and then another 45 game seconds to get down to here, and then the fight would be on at 22 minutes. And at 22 minutes, he's got no army. So right now is when you'd be arriving at his base if you'd done that, and you'd have no army whatsoever. And instead you're going to try to float that over, but the whole time you're floating that over, you have a $500 income, and he's got a $2,300 income. So yeah. And you can't land for a long time. You gotta wait for, yeah. So anyway, that was that 5-minute window between when you lost your third and when you put it back up. That's when you lost the game. This was really good though. This game was really close, and you just did good all game long. Good things, good times. Bye.